The highway to nowhere. As I gripped the steering wheel tightly, the darkness outside seemed to seep into the car, making the shadows on the deserted highway appear alive. My friend Rohan navigated the GPS, trying to find a shortcut to our destination. We were supposed to reach the hotel by midnight, but now it was already 2 a.m. The dense forest surrounding us seemed to close in with every passing mile. Suddenly, the car sputtered and the headlights flickered. "No, no, no," Rohan muttered, trying to restart the engine. The car finally lurched forward, but the headlights refused to stabilize, casting eerie shadows on the trees. We drove in silence, the only sound the creaking of the old car. Then we saw her, a figure standing in the middle of the road, her eyes glowing in the dark. Rohan swerved to avoid her, but the car skidded to a halt. We sat frozen, expecting her to move or disappear. Instead, she began walking towards us, her pace steady and unnerving. Rohan whispered, "Let's get out of here." But as we turned to flee, the doors wouldn't budge. The figure reached the window, her face pressed against the glass. I saw my own reflection in her eyes, distorted and twisted. Then, everything went black. When we came to, the car was parked on the side of the road, the engine dead. There was no sign of the mysterious woman. The GPS showed we'd driven in circles back to the same spot where we'd seen her. The hotel's lights were visible in the distance, but we knew we'd never speak of that night again. The darkness outside seemed to whisper, "You didn't imagine it. I'm still here." The last stop. The highway stretched out before me like a black ribbon. The only sound, the hum of the engine and the soft glow of the dashboard. I was driving back from a late-night meeting, the exhaustion weighing heavy on my eyelids. As I approached a deserted gas station, the fuel light flickered on. I pulled in, the fluorescent lights overhead casting an eerie glow. The attendant, an old man with sunken eyes, filled up my tank in silence. As he handed me the receipt, he whispered, "Be careful on the road. You shouldn't be driving alone at this hour." His tone sent a shiver down my spine. Back on the road, I noticed a car following me, its headlights reflected in my rearview mirror, casting an unsettling glare. I sped up, but the car kept pace. My heart racing, I took the next exit, hoping to lose the tail. But the car followed, its headlights growing brighter. Suddenly, the GPS announced my destination was ahead. I turned into the driveway, relieved to be home. But as I parked, I noticed the mysterious car had vanished. The old attendant's words echoed in my mind. "You shouldn't be driving alone at this hour." As I stepped out of the car, I saw a piece of paper on the windshield, a receipt from the gas station with a handwritten note. "You're not alone." I spun around, but the darkness was empty. The chill of the night lingered, and I knew I'd never forget that drive. The last exit. I was driving home from a late-night shift, the highway stretching out before me like a black ribbon. As I approached the exit from my town, I noticed a strange sign. "Last exit before darkness." A chill ran down my spine. I'd never seen that sign before. I took the exit, and the GPS recalculated the route. The road wound through dense woods, growing darker with each mile. I accelerated, anxious to escape the oppressive atmosphere. Suddenly, the car's radio crackled to life, broadcasting a faint, eerie signal. A low, raspy voice whispered my name. "Turn back now." I spun the dial, but the voice persisted. The woods seemed to close in, branches scraping against the windows. I floored it, desperate to find civilization. The voice grew louder, You've passed the point of no return. The trees thinned, revealing a desolate gas station. I screeched to a halt, leapt out, and sprinted inside. The attendant looked up, expressionless. "You're the last one," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. As I stared, the clock on the wall froze at 3:33. The attendant's eyes turned black, and the voice on the radio whispered, "Welcome home." The darkness outside seeped in, and I was trapped forever on the last exit. The echoes in the rear view driving down the winding mountain roads at night always unnerved me. But this trip was different. My sister, Rhea, sat beside me, her voice a gentle hum as she navigated the GPS. We were headed to our grandparents' old cabin, seeking solace after a painful loss. The darkness outside seemed to swallow us whole, the only sound the soft purring of the engine. As we rounded a curve, a faint whisper echoed through the speakers. A soft, melancholic song. Rhea and I exchanged a confused glance. The song grew louder, the lyrics haunting. Suddenly, the GPS screen flickered, displaying an address we'd passed hours ago. The song changed to a message, clear as day. "Turn back now." Rhea's eyes widened. "What's going on?" Accelerated, trying to shake off the unease. But the messages persisted. Warnings, memories, and whispers from an unknown voice. The GPS led us deeper into the mountains, further from our destination. The voice grew urgent, the words overlapping. Rhea grabbed my arm. "Stop the car." I slammed on the brakes. The voice fell silent. In the sudden stillness, Rhea whispered, "I think we're not alone on this road." I glanced in the rearview mirror, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a figure sitting in the back seat. Rhea's eyes locked on mine, filled with a mix of fear and understanding. We didn't speak a word, just turned the car around and headed back home. The darkness outside seemed less oppressive, but the echoes lingered, a reminder that some roads are best avoided. The phantom headlights driving through the deserted highway, the only sound being the hum of the engine, I felt a sense of unease. The GPS had stopped working hours ago, and my phone had no signal. Suddenly, a pair of headlights appeared in the distance, growing larger with each passing second. As the car approached, I felt a wave of relief. Finally, someone else was on this desolate road. But as the car drew closer, its headlights illuminated my rearview mirror, casting an eerie glow. I slowed down, expecting the car to pass. Instead, it matched my speed, its headlights fixed on me. I accelerated, but the car kept pace. Sweat trickled down my spine as I realized the car's headlights never wavered, never dipped. They remained fixed on me, a constant, unnerving presence. I sped up, the headlights stayed with me. I slowed down, they adjusted. Suddenly, the headlights vanished. The darkness was absolute. I coasted to the side of the road, heart racing. As I looked around, I noticed something. My own car's headlights weren't working. The darkness was total. I was alone, or so I thought. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of my own ragged breathing. And then, the headlights reappeared. Behind me, beside me, all around me. I knew then I was trapped, driving through a realm where the rules of reality no longer applied. The phantom headlights had become my constant companion, a harbinger of something sinister. The vanishing mile markers I drove through the night, the highway stretching out before me like a black canvas. The GPS had stopped working hours ago, and I relied on the mile markers to gauge my progress. But as I drove, the mile markers began to blur their numbers fading into the darkness. I rubbed my eyes, thinking it was fatigue. But when I looked again, the mile markers were gone. The road was empty, devoid of any signs or landmarks. Panic set in as I realized I was lost in the middle of nowhere. I drove on, searching for any sign of civilization. But the road seemed to stretch on forever, the darkness closing in around me. Suddenly, a faint light appeared in the distance. A lone mile marker, standing like a sentinel on the side of the road. As I approached, the numbers on the markers changed. 432, 433, 434. But the numbers weren't getting smaller, they were getting larger. I realized I was driving in circles, trapped in a never-ending loop. The mile markers seemed to mock me, their numbers changing with each passing moment. The darkness closed in, and I was consumed by the void. When I finally stopped driving, exhausted and disoriented, the mile markers were gone. The road was empty, and I was left with only the echoes of my own screams.